Hi, in this video, we will try to apply row level security for organizational hierarchy. In organizational hierarchy, the approach is that each employee should have access to his or own data, and the manager of that employee should have access to his own record and to the employee's data as well. There can be another eye level manager, and that manager should have access to the data of all his subordinates. For example, here Soham is in level 3, so he can only have access to his data, whereas Mohit is in level 2, so he has access to both his own record and to that of Soham's because Soham is reporting to him. And Ravi is at level 1, so he has access to Mohit, Suyash, and Soham's records. So let's see how to implement that in Power BI. I have an empty Power BI open, and let me enter the data as well for our scenario. So I will name this table as an employee table, and the first column will be my employee ID, and the second column will be the name of the employee. The third column will be the email address, and the fourth column will be the manager ID. I already have the data with me, so I will just copy paste that. This data basically replicates what we have seen in the slides. So let me go and load the data. I will add one more table, and I will name this table as sales transactions or just sales. And this table has only two columns. The first column will be my employee ID, which basically refers to the employee table, and the second column will be sales. I already have the data, so I will just copy paste that and say load. Once the data loads, just go to the relationship tab and make sure that the Power BI has detected the relationship between the employee and the sales table. So let me first create a sample report. The report will have employee ID, employee name, employee email, manager ID, and the total sales. And I will convert the data visualization to a table. Let me sort by employee ID. And before implementing the row level security, we need to know a couple of important functions in DAX. The first function is the path function. This path function is used in tables that have some kind of internal hierarchy to return the items that are related to the current row value. For example, in our scenario, we can use path function to return the entire hierarchy level for each employee. And the path function is not constrained to a single level of parent-child relationships. Rather, it can return related rows that are several levels up from the specified starting row. The path function has only two parameters. The first parameter takes the column name of your ID, and the second parameter takes the column name of your parent. So let's look at that in action. So go to your data view, and within data view go to your employee table. In the employee table, go and add a new column. So we are trying to add a calculated column rather than a measure. So here just name the column as employee path is nothing but path of, and if you open the brackets you will get the IntelliSense. So here it says you need to give the ID of the column name and the parent column name. So the ID of the column name is nothing but employee ID, and the ID of the parent column name is nothing but my manager ID. As you can observe, this function will give us the entire path of the hierarchy with a delimited text value. The ID of every employee in the path is separated in this text by a vertical line. Since Hemant and Ravi, they do not have any managers, it returns only their own IDs. But Karthik, his manager is Hemant, and first it returns the ID of the manager and then it returns the ID of the current employee. Now, the most important function for us to implement row level security is the path contains function. So the path contains function basically has two parameters. The first parameter is the path itself, so we will be passing this path. The second parameter is the individual item. And the path function will return true if the specified item exists within the specified path. So let's suppose that Suyash logs in. His employee ID is 7, so our path function will check whether 7 is present in any of these paths. And since 7 is present only in this path, only in this record, only this record will be returned to Suyash. Whereas suppose that Hemant logs in, he has an employee ID of 1, and path contains function will check whether the employee ID 1 is present in any of these rows within the employee path column. And since it is present over here, over here, over here, it will return all the records where employee ID 1 is present. So thereby basically we are returning his own record and the records of his subordinates. So let's see how to implement that. So first let's create a role. Within the manage roles window, go to your employee table, and here we need to write our DAX function. So first we need to write the filter function that filters our employee table for the logged in user. So the first parameter I need to pass is the table name, employee, and I need to pass in the filter, which is nothing but email, and email will be user principal name. So let me begin with bracket and end with a bracket. So this function, irrespective of who logs in, it will produce only one record for that particular user. Next, we need to fetch the ID of, or rather I should say employee ID for this particular record. So if we fetch the ID from this record, we can pass it to the path contains function to check if that ID is available in the user path, and if it is available, return all the records. So to do that, you can make use of any function. Probably you can make use of max or min. So I will make use of max function, which will allow me to return the ID. And basically I am saying for this one record, give me the maximum of, I should say, employee ID, or rather it is employee of employee ID. So this function will give me that particular ID of the user. And once we have this ID, we can pass this ID to the path contains function. So just say path contains. And since we basically need to search that ID in the path that we have created, you need to pass in that path as the first parameter. So which is nothing but employee of path, or rather it is employee of employee path. So whatever ID is being returned by this set of code will be passed into this employee path, and only the records which match will be displayed. So let me save it, and I will go and publish the model. In Power BI service, let me go to the dataset and security, and let me add a couple of users. First I will add Mohit, and next is Soham, and just say add and save the data and go and test as role. Since I am logged in as Ravi, I am able to see the records for myself, record for Mohit because he reports to Ravi, and record for Soham, he also reports to Ravi, and for Suyash as well. So now let me go and view as Mohit. Mohit is able to see only the record for himself, and since Soham reports directly to Mohit, he is able to see the record for Soham as well. Next, let me view as Soham. And since no one reports to Soham, he is able to see only his record. In summary, we discussed how to implement row level security for an organizational hierarchy dataset. In the next video, we will talk about some of the limitations of row level security. Thank you.